Welcome back to another short story from the book The Conjure Woman. And y'all, this one, only Jordan Peele could turn this around and make this into a movie, but I'm sure they're already working on the Zora Neale Hurston thing that I tagged Monkey Paw in like 2 years ago at this point. But yeah, here's another one that they definitely need to take on as well. And I would happily write the screenplay for it too. Now, this one is called Mars Jeems' Nightmare. Now, once again, our wonderful former enslaved man, Julius, is trying to keep John, who purchased the vineyard, on his toes. And he keeps telling him all these stories. But John one day decides to inform Julius that your grandson ain't that good of a worker, and I'm going to have to fire him. Well, you know Julius has a story to tell John, and it is called Mars Jeems' Nightmare. Mars Jeems was a slave owner who had a nightmare about being turned into a black man, thus being a slave. Now, because Mars treated his slaves horribly, I mean horribly, his fiancée refused to marry him, thus causing Mars to treat them even worse. Well, after taking out his anger on the enslaved people so many times, another enslaved man named Solomon goes to Aunt Peggy from the first story and asks her to help him hex Mars, teach him a lesson. So Aunt Peggy decides to hex Mars's soup. Now, after eating this soup, Mars disappears and then reappears as a black man. As a slave, he is beaten and made compliant and just treated horribly, like the slaves on his plantation, and this goes on for a full month. Now, after realizing that Mars has probably learned his lesson, Solomon goes back to Aunt Peggy, where she hexes a sweet potato. They feed it to Mars. He eats the sweet potato, disappears, and turns back into his regular old white self. And because he is a changed man, he now treats his slaves much better, and his fiancée has now agreed to actually marry him. Now, what's funny to me is that Julius uses this story to John and Annie as a way to tell them, hey, you need to learn to do right by people, or else something bad like that'll happen to you. Folks who do bad by others have nightmares, while folks who do good by others always have good prospects. Now, of course, Annie, the wife, is the one who takes the moral of the story immediately, and she has to convince her husband, maybe we should just let the grandson stay and work. He'll be fine, which they do. They end up not firing the grandson. Thus, we have another story of Julius getting his way, and honestly, y'all, Julius is really starting to be, is Uncle Remus the correct word? Was he the storyteller? I can't remember. The one giving all the stories. But yeah, that's kind of what this is turning into. I feel like he's playing a trick on John, and not necessarily a trick, but all of these stories are being used, as a way to get John to stop doing certain things. Either way, let me know what y'all think about this in the comments.